October 22nd, 2000, Albany, New York. The lights blaze, the crowd's on edge, and in the ring, a battle is brewing that would shake the World Wrestling Federation landscape. The Rock, king of charisma and trash talk, faces Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist turned ruthless challenger, in a no disqualification title fight. Stone Cold's return collides with Rikishi in a no-holds-bar slugfest. We're peeling back the curtain. This is No Mercy 2000. Let's go back to that night and relive it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Welcome to and new. Oh yeah!
It's going to be the biggest battleground in the history of our sport.
As God is my witness, he is broken in half.
But I'm better than you,
And you know it. You want some? Come get some.
Acknowledge me.
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
Welcome, wrestling fans, to the Wrestling Universe Channel's podcast, where pro wrestling fans discuss what we love, pro wrestling. So as always, if it's your first time listening in, we, the Wrestling Universe Channel, would like to thank you for taking the time to listen. And if you have returned, we want to give you a special shout out of thanks for sticking around the Wrestling Universe Channel. We invite you to follow us on YouTube and Spotify. Links below.
Rikishi.
I ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
It's going to be one solid Stone Cold. It's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad.
No holds barred.
This match is going to take brutality to a whole nother level.
And now, WWF No Mercy.
If you lived through the Attitude Era, this one's for you. We journey back to October 22nd, 2000, the anniversary of WWF No Mercy 2000. We'll break down what led to the show, behind the scenes drama, match by match reviews with Dave Meltzer's star ratings, business numbers, alternate history, standout moments, and what makes this night worth rewinding. So strap in. By the end, you might just want to watch it for the first time or relive it once again. The Attitude Era was in its late phase. World Wrestling Federation was riding high, strong ratings, big pay-per-view buys, and creative risks. Rival promotions, World Championship Wrestling and ECW were faltering. WWF was consolidating dominance. Kurt Angle had debuted earlier in 1999 and had quickly become a key figure, zero tolerance, ruthless, and technically elite. The Rock was at the height of his charisma, bridging cool heel and top babyface. Stone Cold Steve Austin had been off TV for a bit, so his return added huge hype. In the weeks leading up, tension between The Rock and Angle, playful antagonism. We also had the Conquistador storyline, Triple H taking on Chris Benoit, and mid-card feuds trying to catch fire. Behind the curtain, there was a buzz that bringing Stone Cold Steve Austin back this night was a gamble. Ensuring the build-up, protecting his health, and integrating into existing storylines was tricky. Rumors circulated about possible alternate main events. Some fans speculated Rock vs. Austin, or Angle vs. Austin, but those never, of course, took root. From the October 23rd Wrestling Observer newsletter, the possibility of World Wrestling Federation purchasing World Championship Wrestling became a lot more likely in this week after reports that Eric Bischoff and his Mandalay Sports Group had pulled themselves out of the running. If WWF buys WCW, the belief is that they will run it as a separate company for a while and ultimately do an inter-promotional feud at some point down the road. But there's a lot of roadblocks in the way of the WWF WCW deal, much of it to do with contracts. A lot of WCW wrestlers are on contracts that are reevaluated every 90 days, which means they could be terminated by Vince McMahon, who would have all the negotiation leverage, could renegotiate deals for a lot less money. With ECW being unable to afford anyone, Dave Meltzer suspects there's going to be a lot of high-paid WCW wrestlers who might be about to undergo a major change in their lifestyles if this deal happens. Everyone realizes that competition is good for the wrestlers, and if Vince buys WCW, that kills all the negotiation leverage for everybody when contracts come due. There's a very limited number of top spots within a single company, and if Vince owns everything, that creates a lot more competition for those top spots. The key to this is that TBS and TNT want to retain the primetime programming no matter who buys World Championship Wrestling, and McMahon seems like the obvious choice if they want someone who can rebuild WCW and deliver ratings. So while this might end up sucking for the wrestlers, selling the show to Vince might be the best business move for Turner. On the business side of this event, the attendance, 14,342 fans packed the Pepsi Arena in Albany, New York. No Mercy 2000 drew around 550,000 buys, marking a large jump from prior No Mercy events. The long-term business effect, a strong show like this keeps momentum going into a main pay-per-view like Survivor Series. It also reinforces merchandising, live event ticketing, and branding strength going into the holiday season. So let's hop into it. Let's run down the match card in its entirety. First off, we have the Dudley Boys Invitational Tag Team Tables Gauntlet match featuring the Dudley Boys, Lowdown, Too Cool, Raven and Taz, and Right to Censor. The match opens with multiple tag teams entering sequentially. The stipulation, you're eliminated when one member is put through the table. Lowdown, consisting of Chaz and D'Lo Brown, and Too Cool, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Grandmaster Sexay go first. Lowdown tries to put Scotty 2 Hotty through a table via the Lowdown finisher, but Scotty shifts out of the way, causing D'Lo Brown to go through the table and thus eliminating Lowdown early. Next, Raven and Taz come in. Double suplex Scotty 2 Hotty through a table to eliminate Too Cool. That is a strong visual spot. A double suplex through the table to raise stakes early. Then the Dudley Boys enter. Their first big moment, Devon Dudley delivers a top rope leg drop onto Taz, who is lying on the table, sending him through it. That eliminates Taz and Raven. Finally, Right to Censor, consisting of the Good Father and Bull Buchanan. The Dudley Boys seem poised to win. Bubba Ray powerbombs Buchanan through a table. However, because the referee was knocked out, the Good Father hits Bubba with a chair, sets Bubba on the broken table, and the ref believes Bubba was driven through it. The ref awards the match to Right to Censor mistakenly, but the match doesn't end. Another referee runs in, clarifies the situation, and the contest is restarted. The Dudley Boys then hit a 3D Dudley Death Drop, sending the Good Father through a table to eliminate Right to Censor, securing the win. Dave Meltzer gives this a 2-star rating. Overall, this match was a chaotic, spectacle-oriented opener meant primarily to energize the crowd and showcase the Dudleys' dominance in tables matches. The referee confusion restart finish is a bit gimmicky and drawn criticism in recaps, but in the context of the Attitude Era, that kind of drama is par for the course. The match doesn't aim to be a technical classic. It's about heat, visuals, momentum, and giving the crowd something loud to start with. The next match was a steel cage match as we saw X-Pac take on Y2J Chris Jericho. The match runs for about 10 minutes and 38 seconds, or in some recaps, 10 minutes and 40 seconds, before Chris Jericho escapes the cage to win. It features a balanced mix of high spots, cage usage, and the face-heel psychology. One notable spot, Jericho locks X-Pac in the walls of Jericho, i.e. up high using the cage structure, as a submission crippling attempt. There is also a moment where X-Pac is about to win, but Jericho crotches him on the cage door, halting the momentum and giving Jericho the opening he needs to escape. Some recaps mention a slam off the top of the cage into the ring, a visually dramatic bump that gets crowd reaction. The ending, Jericho escapes over the top, not through the door, to win. This is one of the stronger undercard matches on the card. The combination of cage stipulation plus Jericho and Xbox chemistry helps it punch above expectations. Some criticism, crowd engagement was dipped at points, typical for a cage match, and pacing lagged in the middle, but it closes strong. Dave Meltzer gives this a 3.5-star rating. The next match we see is Val Venis and Steven Richards going against Billy Gunn and Chyna. This bout was all about ongoing storylines and sneaky interference. On one side, Billy Gunn and Chyna came out as the babyfaces, the crowd solidly behind them. On the other side, Val Venis and Steven Richards represent Right to Censor, drawing heavy boos. The opening sequence saw Chyna start off hot against Richards, delivering a flurry of forearms and a military press slam to a huge reaction. Right to Censor regrouped, using Richards' distraction tactics to let Venis hit a low blow on Gunn behind the referee's back. From there, the heels isolated Gunn, focusing on his shoulder with repeated arm wrenches and elbow drops to soften him up. Chyna got the hot tag, stormed in, and cleaned house, clotheslining both Val Venis and Steven Richards, hitting a powerbomb on Richards, then a handspring elbow on Val Venis in the corner. The crowd thought it was over, but here came the twist. Eddie Guerrero, still intertwined in Chyna's storyline, came down the ramp holding a bouquet of flowers. The crowd thought he was supporting Chyna until Eddie blocked her with the bouquet, revealing the lead pipe hidden inside. Chyna collapsed. Val Venis covered her. The referee counted 3. Val Venis and Steven Richards got the tainted victory while Eddie backed up the ramp smirking. Billy Gunn kneeled by Chyna looking stunned. This is a match that was remembered less for its wrestling and more for the shocking Eddie turn. It pushed the ongoing Chyna-Eddie saga forward and cemented Right to Censor's status as underhanded heels. Dave Meltzer's rating, 1.5 stars. We move on to Rikishi taking on the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin in a no-holds-barred match. This was all about revenge. Austin had been sidelined after the infamous hit and run. Now he'd found out Rikishi did it for The Rock. Stone Cold Steve Austin initially did not appear for the match and was nowhere to be seen in the arena the entire night. Rikishi demanded that Commissioner Mick Foley declared him the winner by forfeit, but Stone Cold entered the arena in his Stone Cold truck and drove it to the ring. Austin viciously attacked Rikishi and nailed him with several chair shots. Rikishi's face was a crimson red, but Austin continued to attack Rikishi and sent him into the back of his truck. Once closing the tailgate, Stone Cold got into his truck and drove off out of the arena. After reaching the parking lot, Stone Cold Steve Austin dragged Rikishi out of his truck and tried to run him down, just like what had happened at last year's Survivor Series. But a police car came in the way to rescue Rikishi. Many police cars came in afterwards, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was arrested for trying to run down Rikishi with his truck. As a result, the match was declared in a no contest. It was all about revenge and a violent segment that reestablished Austin as the unhinged anti-hero. Meltzer gives this 2.25 stars. We begin to lighten up a little bit as we witness a European Championship match between William Regal defending his title against, of all opponents, the Naked Minion. The match has a comedic, provocative gimmick. Minion begins in clothes, as mandated, but strips off early to compete, quote-unquote, naked, or basically in his underwear, to get psychological legs going. Regal protests. Midian dominates a portion of the match using the shock factor and perhaps underhanded tactics, leaving William Regal looking uncomfortable. Regal fights back. He knocks Midian from the top rope, attempts submission with the Regal stretch, but Midian resists. The finish sees William Regal land a Regal cutter on Mideon, then pins him to retain the European Championship. Dave Meltzer gave this -0.5 stars. This is a match driven by shock humor and crowd reaction, more than wrestling excellence. The negative rating suggests critics considered it a low point of the show, likely due to its gimmicky nature and low in-ring performance. Quickly moving on, it is the Los Conquistadors going against the Hardy Boys for the WWF Tag Team Championships. The Hardy Boys are defending the WWF Tag Team title, the Conquistadors. The match is relevantly short, with basic tag dynamics focusing less on spectacle and more on quick pacing. The finish, the masks come off, revealing it's none other than Edge and Christian. Christian pins Matt Hardy to win the titles. This is one of the weaker matches by rating. The match is more about the reveal and the title change twist than wrestling sophistication. Fans often cite the unmasking moment as a highlight rather than the match itself. Dave Meltzer gives this 3/4 stars. Up next, it is the crippler Chris Benoit taking on the Game Triple H. This was a technician versus cerebral assassin match. Benoit was at his peak intensity while Triple H had something to prove after being outshunned by Kurt Angle and The Rock in the months prior.
As the match started, Triple H started attacking Chris Benoit's injured left knee until injuring his left arm. Chris Benoit started attacking Triple H's injured arm and performed a diving headbutt on the arm. The match went brilliantly back and forth. Submission moves applied, both Benoit and Triple H working on injured ligaments. Eventually, Chris Benoit applied the crippler crossface onto Triple H. Triple H stood up after a while and got out of the move. Towards the very end, Stephanie McMahon Helmsley interfered in the match and slapped Chris Benoit. Stephanie also then distracted the referee, allowing Triple H to hit Chris Benoit with a low blow. Triple H followed it up with the pedigree to pin Benoit for the victory.
This overall was a match showcasing brilliance. Stiff, technical, and smartly paced. Dave Meltzer gave this a 4-star rating. And finally, the main event, a no disqualification match for the World Wrestling Federation title. The Rock defending against the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. Angle was positioned as the arrogant, sneaky heel with plenty of comedic promos, but a growing list of accolades, while The Rock was the charismatic fan favorite. Stephanie McMahon Helmsley was heavily involved in the storyline, adding an extra layer of drama as she became an on-screen manager of Angle, fueling tension with Triple H. Stephanie took advantage of the stipulations and started attacking The Rock. However, The Rock earned momentum and applied a sharpshooter on Angle. Angle tapped out to the hold, but the referee was distracted by Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie continued to interfere on Angle's behalf, but The Rock dominated Kurt Angle for much of the match until Angle hit The Rock with the WWF Championship belt. However, The Rock recovered and hit Kurt Angle with a spinebuster. The Rock tried to hit the people's elbow, but Stephanie entered the ring. This angered The Rock, and he performed the rock bottom on Stephanie. The Rock tried to hit the people's elbow on Stephanie, but Angle interrupted and prevented The Rock from hitting the move. Triple H interfered in the match as he tossed Angle out of the ring, hit The Rock with a pedigree, and carried Stephanie backstage. Kurt Angle and The Rock continued to battle each other until an injured Rikishi interfered in the match on The Rock's behalf. Rikishi started attacking Angle. The Rock and Angle returned to the ring where The Rock hit Angle with the rock bottom and attempted a pinfall, but Kurt Angle kicked out at 2. Rikishi tried to do a splash on Angle in the ring, but The Rock was also splashed. Rikishi tried to hit a savant kick on Angle, but accidentally hit The Rock with it. Rikishi tried to perform another savant kick on Angle, but Kurt Angle ducked and performed an Angle slam on Rikishi. Angle focused on a knockout Rock and delivered him an Angle slam to win the match, thus becoming the new World Wrestling Federation champion. Dave Meltzer gives this 4.25 stars. Our next segment of the show is the What If category. What if Chris Benoit beat Triple H. If Benoit had been victorious over Triple H at No Mercy, the ripple effects on WWF's main event scene in late 2000 could have been massive. For example, an immediate credibility boost, a clean win, or even a heelish but decisive win over Triple H would have made Benoit a full-on main event player 6 months earlier than he actually reached later on. We also could have had a potential Angle Benoit program. With Angle holding the WWF title, Benoit's victory over Triple H would have made him a legitimate next challenger. With Kurt Angle being the WWF champion now heading into the next pay-per-view, and Benoit victorious over Triple H would have made Benoit a legitimate next challenger for the world title. And finally, what if Austin's return had been saved for Survivor Series 2000 instead of No Mercy? The timing of Stone Cold Steve Austin's comeback was a big deal. Survivor Series 1999 was the event where Austin was famously hit by the car. So having him return 1 year later at Survivor Series 2000 would have made perfect sense. Here's how that would have changed things. Of course, the biggest possible pop, saving Stone Cold Steve Austin's first official match back for the Survivor Series 2000 in a marquee match, perhaps even the main event, would have generated a historic return reaction. No Mercy felt transitional. Without Stone Cold Steve Austin at No Mercy, the card leans more on Rock, Angle, Triple H, and Benoit. You could have had Rikishi face someone else to hold his heel heat until Austin's return. The downside though, WWF needed a big hook for No Mercy, and Austin's return gave it. But had they waited just 1 month later, that could have truly been an iconic anniversary storyline moment at Survivor Series. What are your thoughts? We move forward to the most memorable moments, standouts, and even worse moments and botches. The Rock vs. Kurt Angle main event is often cited as the match people return to. Chris Benoit vs. Triple H quietly is a gem for wrestling fans who dig technical excellence. Both of these matches are the standouts in my opinion and should always be rewatched regardless. Stone Cold Steve Austin's return, yes, even if the match wasn't top tier, it gave the night a narrative weight. But even more of a bonus was the Chris Jericho vs. X-Pac match, which actually gave a surprising mid-card boost. But of course, the worst moments, well, we have to go right away with probably the worst match of the night. The Naked Minion gimmick, with teases of nudity and stripping, got crowd reaction at first, but that wore thin really fast. The match was slow paced, and much of it felt like padding to fill time. And if you look, the crowd seemed bored during the large stretches. One reviewer actually called it a letdown match after the higher intensity matches around it. Here's something you probably might have or might not have noticed. There was a part where Too Cool and Raven and Taz were going at it. And there was a moment where Scotty 2 Hotty and Grandmaster Sexay tried a sunset flip powerbomb off the apron through a ringside table, but his leg broke the table prematurely. That was a visible botch. The referee bump, referee confusion finish in that match during the time between Right to Censor and the Dudley Boys, it was dramatic but felt like overused gimmick territory. Over time, No Mercy 2000 has held a positive reputation among many fans and critics. The main event is still praised, and the show is often seen as part of WWF's strong 2000 slate. The return of Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock Kurt Angle clash, Chris Benoit and Triple H hidden in plain sight greatness. One core thing, that night represented a transitional moment, balancing spectacle and legitimate wrestling, giving space for big names and technical wrestlers. As always, we appreciate and thank you all for taking the time to be a part of our episode here on the Wrestling Universe channel. Please let us know how we did, or if you have anything you would like to contribute to this episode, we would love to hear your feedback. And you know the drill. Follow us on all of our social platforms, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify, and we look forward to the next episode. So long, wrestling fans.